Okay, so today we're going to talk about learning, growth, and failure. I think overall I'd call the lecture growth because I think that learning is technically growth, and we'll discuss why I think that for the lecture. It'll be less of a lecture as well. I thought the round table worked a lot better last time, where you guys can ask questions, and you guys will very likely need to ask a lot of questions because I'm going to be all over the place on this one. Lots of different topics, and so if you guys are ever off track or don't know what's going on, please just say, and I'll try to realign things, and hopefully I'll be able to tie it up at the end. To start off, Victor last week, or 2 weeks ago, was chosen for decision making, and so you will now choose someone for Team Spirit.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'll just do it in Danish.
Sure, yeah, that's fine.
Jeg synes faktisk, den har været meget nem. Jeg giver den til Josh. Fordi han kommer altid ind til træning med godt humør. Og han er god til at smide dag på os andre. Og det synes jeg også, vi ser, når vi spiller kampe. Så det hold, hvor Josh er på, synes jeg har en bedre energi og atmosfære på holdet. Så ja, Josh.
Super. Nice. Congrats. So let's go around in a circle, starting here, and we can all talk about what those keywords mean to us. Growth, failure, learning. So we'll start with Toby.
You grow a lot by learning, yeah, and you learn a lot by failing.
Voilà. Du tager fuldkommen mine ord der.
You almost made a full pyramid there. 2 lines, you almost made the trifecta.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of those very true. Yeah, I agree with those statements. Casper?
Yeah, mostly like failure. If you don't fail, you will never know what you can do better and succeed in. And growth, yes, you grow a lot when you are learning.
Okay.
I don't know what to say. Yeah, so, I would just agree with those guys.
Yeah. Josh?
Yeah, so failure goes hands in hand with success, because if you don't fail, you'll never be successful.
Yeah.
So you will always grow as a person if you make mistakes and you learn from the mistakes you make.
Yeah, well said.
I think when you have to learn and grow, the failure is necessary. Because if you don't fail, you're not pushing yourself hard enough.
Yeah, I agree with all of them. So I think failure is necessary for growth because it's necessary for learning. But I don't think necessarily growth comes from failing. It comes from learning from your mistakes, as Josh said. So yeah, it's all about learning from your mistakes.
Yeah, so some active attention there.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
And also, like, what's a good and bad mistake, or good bad failure? Like, as you said, with a hit or a serve, if you do it in the net, bad failure. But if it's just out, then that's a good failure. You can learn from that. And same thing with the sets and stuff.
Agree, and I also think that learning is being able to put take something abstract and be able to like make it concrete and actually like make a goal from that and then strive to be better than that goal or achieve it. So you get like this abstract failure and then you make it concrete and then you like grow and learn by being able to achieve that goal.
Yeah, and I think when you grow enough, you obviously fail less in that area, so you have to push yourself to try and learn something new, and then fail in that, and then get, so on.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I will start off by drawing out what I would consider to be, it's how trees grow. It's a root system. So let's say that's the base of the tree there, and then the root system. And from what I understand, the canopy of a tree actually covers this area.
The canopy?
The canopy is the leaf system. the leaf and branch system. So, the leaves in the branch covers about this area. This is a canopy, and then this is the root system. So, from what I understand, the canopy is not only meant to. What's the process? Sorry,
Photosynthesis.
Thank you. It's not only required for the photosynthesis process, but it's also used to grow out the root system. Because what happens is water falls on a canopy, and if you guys have ever had to sleep outdoors during a rainstorm, you know that the base of the tree is the place that you want to sleep, because it's not going to get as wet as everywhere else, because the rest of the canopy is going to filter the water off and outside. And that's actually going to give a place for the roots to reach for. You don't want to water the roots of a tree. That's something that I learned when I was living in Arizona. It's a desert, and so the trees aren't getting consistent waterfall. They get monsoons, which is these really crazy rainstorms where it'll rain for a few days and torrential downpour. And it's so funny living there, because what happens is that throughout the year it's just desert, 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 hot, hot, hot. The winters are plus 20 degrees and the summers are plus 50 degrees. And I remember being outside at one point just thinking, wow, nothing is alive out here. No bugs, no lizards, it gets that hot. There's just nothing. Complete silence, complete still. And then every now and then a monsoon comes along in the middle of the summer. And so it'll just be this huge torrential downpour. Imagine Danish rain times 5. And that'll happen, and you'll see everyone walking around the lakes outside, because they have lakes in the nice residential spots. But people will go for walks in the middle of monsoons because they haven't seen rain in, oh God, there was a point where I didn't see a cloud for 6 months. It's just blue skies every day. It's just way too hot. And so a monsoon comes and it's just torrential downpour. People are walking outside in their t-shirts and shorts, like just smiling, laughing to each other. If I were to take just a clip of that, you'd think the people are crazy. But there's none of that for the trees. So there's not a consistent rainfall for the trees. And what a lot of people do when they get trees is they set up irrigation systems so they don't have to water it themselves. And what they do is they water it right at the base of the tree. And what happens is the first windstorm comes around and the tree gets knocked right over. And that's because the tree hasn't been required to reach its roots out to find new water sources, to find new reservoirs, or to find different places where it can get water from, connecting to different trees, sharing resources. So what happens is people plant a tree in a bucket about this big, and then they water in a bucket this big, and then as they get bigger, 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 they'll fall over because there's nothing that's requiring the tree to reach out. Really cool related story. There's a place called Biosphere 2, and you'd call the Earth a biosphere. A group of habitats or climate zones put together, and that creates the Earth. And so in Phoenix they tried to create this place called Biosphere 2. I think at one point it was owned by NASA because they were trying to figure out if they could make a lunar base with like a self-sustaining lunar base. And it ended up being a bit of a nightmare, but they learned a lot of really cool lessons. And one of the things that they learned was that you couldn't grow trees in there without adding external stresses. So all of the trees would get only so big, and then they'd fall over. All of them. All the time. They kept wondering, what's happening? We're watering them at different places. We're doing all the right things. We're taking care of them. The roots aren't rotted. The trees aren't rotted. Everything looks fine. Everything should be fine. And what they realized was that the trees weren't expanding their roots to grab onto the earth because there was no wind to push them around. There was no wind to show them adversity. So anytime they got to a point of critical mass, they would just fall over because they weren't rooted properly. And then there were a bunch of videos of people in this Biosphere 2 walking around, and every day they'd walk around to these big banana trees or grapefruit trees, and just a couple guys would grab onto branches and just shake them back and forth because the trees needed some kind of adversity. That's what I would call it in comparison to the human mind. We need some kind of adversity. We need something that actually pushes against us. I've talked about it before, but it's called opponent process theory, which is if I really want to move my finger really, really perfectly along this line, the best thing that I can do is just put something right there. And then I can be really, really specific about it. I have a ton of control there. But here I don't have as much control. So I need something to push against me. I need that adversity. And that's the same thing with learning. The best way that we can expand our root system is by having something push against us. And that's what I would consider failure. This is also a psychological concept called it's the Lev-Yudkowsky zone of proximal development. So we can just call it the ZOPD. Which I thought that was just the most amazing thing, because I learned a lot about this when I was taking psychology. He's a cognitive scientist, so he was doing tests on how people learned and how people came to understand things. And what it was is that this is that area where you can do everything really, really well. I don't have to ask you guys to explain to me how to walk, or I'm not going to start grading you guys on how well you walk or how well you run or jump. You guys are pretty competent in that. Maybe not the jumping, sometimes not the running. But we're very competent here. We can do anything in here. And then the Yudkowsky zone actually has one more about here. And that's the things that we can do. Those are the things that we're secure in, and these are the things that we can do pretty well on our own. So that's stuff we can do pretty well on our own. And then this stuff out here is the stuff that we kind of need help to do it. We kind of need help to achieve those things. So, for example, when your teacher's helping you with a math assignment, and they come over and you're going through it together, and anytime that you fail a little bit, they're able to just redirect you just a little bit. They're that opponent process. They're that thing that's just shoving you a little bit back into place. So that's the stuff out here. And then out here is just the totally, like that's, I think that that's just this infinite realm of development and possibility. And I think only over the past month or two, I've expanded my idea of this. I think I wrote probably a small book on this when I was writing the lectures. It was a while ago, but I wrote this lecture because I love it so much. I think that learning is just the most amazing thing. And so from this, I think that growth is technically, I think that learning is technically growth. I think that's the best way to conceptualize it. It's not just this offhand, strange concept that we don't really know what's going on, but I really think that it's the technical growth of the mind and the individual and the soul, the spirit, whatever it is. But I think that when we learn things, we grow. I mean, we say that. Yeah, I'm growing as a person. That just means that I'm learning. Anytime that I've grown as a person, it's been a period of intense learning and cultivation of myself. The thing that I've added to this rather recently is what I call concepts. I mean, I'm sure that you guys would maybe call them concepts as well, but I think that it's the fastest way to learn how to grow is by learning a concept. So I think concepts kind of look like this. Maybe like that. Maybe kind of out here or down here. They can be all over the place, and they can be whatever you want them to be. But, so, for example, what a lot of people, I think, tend to do is they see learning as this linear thing where if you just keep on going, you'll keep on learning. But I think these concepts help to exponentiate the learning, so they make it go much, much, much faster. So say I'm trying to teach you guys your multiplication tables. I say 7 times 7, and I'm sure you guys have it memorized. Anyone know 7 times 7?
49.
Thank you. That is a good way to learn multiplication, but the concept of multiplication is far more important at the higher levels. As things get more abstract, you need the concept, and not just memorization. So when we talk about concepts, one thing that I would say is maybe in volleyball, it's related to having your body facing the inside of the court. And we talk about concepts all the time. Fast feet, high shoulder, snap your wrist, get your feet to the ball or get your feet behind the ball, reach high, contact high, slow to fast. All of those are just concepts. And if you learn those concepts, I don't think there are very many concepts related to volleyball, or maybe to many other things that you do. But I think that people handcuff themselves by trying to take just trying to learn an isolated situation over and over and over again, rather than learning the concept itself. I know that's a little bit abstract. I hope that I can explain it better in the future, but it's really, really, really what I've come to believe. And I think that it's the easiest way to coach yourself as well. It's the easiest way to teach yourself is if you learn what concepts are, and so that you can, it's kind of a ingraining mental idea is what a concept is. For example, I've been playing a lot of beach, and the coach that I'm working with just tells me to be low all the time. And not just on defense, not just on serve receive, she just tells me to be low all the time. And then that just becomes this catchphrase in my mind of, okay, be low. Or fast feet. When do I need fast feet? I need fast feet when I'm getting to the ball to pass it, when I'm getting the ball to set it, when I'm getting the ball to hit it. I always need fast feet. And so it's not just, okay, I need fast feet in this situation. I always need to have fast feet. And so I really think the concepts are probably the next level of this whole idea, and for me at the moment the most abstract thing about this. But I think, oh sorry, this is also pretty cool. So this is where the zone comes from. I'm sure you guys have heard that that phrase. Oh, that guy's in the zone. That's the zone. That's the zone. The zone is that place that is just outside of your reach. Just outside of your reach on a daily practice day. It's that place where you get into this flow and a bird could fly in front of your face in the middle of a match and you wouldn't notice it. You're just so focused. You're razor sharp. You are a killer. And I've seen a lot of you guys hit that zone this year at different points. And I think that's what it's about, is if you can learn this and understand this a little bit more, then you can learn how to tap into that zone. I'm trying to get there all the time. I love that place. God, that's a fun place to be. Every touch is a little bit better than it should be. Like when you watch a guy and he just plays out of his mind, better than you've ever seen the guy play. And I'm sure that you guys have matches of that with yourselves, where you think, ooh, is this the level? Is this my level from now on? This is great. I love this. That's the zone. And that's, you got to get there just by pushing. It's doing things that you think that you probably couldn't do on any other day. And it just clicks, it snaps, it's perfect, it's beautiful. That's what the zone is. And that came from this. The trees, I added. I like the trees. I think that's amazing. When I figured that out, it blew my mind for a lot. We'll talk about pendulum learning a little bit. I know that we've talked about it before, but I'd like to formalize it. I don't think I'm very good at spelling this word. So the idea that I really had with this was that if oh God, what's that? Okay, so this is, I know I've discussed this, and this is something I also figured out this year, which I thought was really cool. So, I call this pendulum learning, and that's that idea of we want the right misses when we miss. You want to miss the right way. So, say if you want a girlfriend. I would say the current failure is probably not talking to girls. The desired failure would probably be talking to too many girls. And then the outcome naturally would be success. Because the way that I see this is that you go like this, you have your current failure, and we actually want to completely change that. We don't want perfection right away. I think that people think about that in the wrong way. I actually want to overshoot my failure when I'm trying to be better at something. I want to do more than what I need to do. So it's like we talked about with cross-court control, where if we're doing cross-court control, I don't care if people hit the ball 50 feet out the side. I would rather someone hits the ball 50 feet out the side than straight down on the attack line, down the line. That's more important to me. So that's the difference between our current failure and the desired failure. And I think that what happens is, if you fail in the desired way, in the right way, in the way that you want to fail, then inevitably you'll be able to bring that back down, because you have this experience of the failure that you're at. And if you just fail past success, you can start to come down. And I think that in my mind, when I think about this kind of failure, it does look like a pendulum. It's like, okay, I'll fail too much. Okay, now I'll bring it back. And I'll fail too much. And I'll bring it back. And I'll fail too much, it's not as much this time, I'll bring it back. And now I'm barely missing, and I'm barely missing, and I'm barely missing, and now I'm consistent. And I think that's how we develop competence in things. So, it's by failing too much. And it's so good to do that while you're young. It's such a perfect time to do that while you're young. Because you have so much time. You have so much time, you have so much energy, you have so much potential, and you learn so bloody fast. You will never have more neural connections in your mind than you are right out of the womb as a fresh baby. And then the rest of your life is just pruning those and growing those. And growing associations and growing habits. And that's why it's so hard to break habits that you've developed when you're young. I still bite my nails. I hate it. I don't want to bite my nails. But I do. Because that was a coping mechanism that I developed when I was young. And so now I have that. And it's a lot better. I used to not have nails because I just chew them until they were completely gone. Associated with this is a concept called growth mindset by someone named Carol Dweck. Have you guys heard of growth mindset before? So Carol Dweck is the researching, the woman that created the idea. And what it is that there's fixed mindset, which is stating things as they are, and then growth mindset, which is stating things as they could be, or in a process-oriented frame. So anytime that I want to give a kid feedback on something in school, if I see that they've done really well on an art assignment or on a math assignment, instead of telling them, wow, you're really good at math, I tell them, I can tell that you're working very hard in math. I can see that you've worked very hard on this. I can see that you're trying to learn this. That's really awesome. And so it's kind of the idea of, rather than associating the state of a person with an intrinsic talent, associating it more with a mindset or a perspective or a process-oriented goal. I try to do the same to you guys all the time, just so you guys know. I can see you're working really hard on this. I treat you guys just like the 5-year-olds that I teach, because I think that's the best way to learn. Do you guys have any questions about this? Do you guys understand this? Hopefully I can explain it better in the future. In my head, it has become very clear. I love to fail. And I don't just say that as lip service. You guys should see me do rock climbing with Albert. He's a much better rock climber than I am. I know that's not growth mindset, but just by climbing with him, he is much easier to get onto the wall, and I'll try the same move as he tries 50 times in a row. Because I know that I can get it if I just keep trying. And I want to fail. I love failing. Failing's my favorite thing to do now, because every time I fail, I'm like, okay, I'm growing a little bit. Actually, that's another thing about this. I forget what the neurochemical is. I didn't talk much about sleep, but sleep is when you learn. Sleep is when you grow physically. The first 4 hours of your sleep is when you're growing physically and when your body's repairing itself. And then the subsequent 4 hours, it's called REM sleep. The first 4 hours is deep sleep. The latter 4 hours is REM sleep. REM sleep is when you're dreaming. It's called rapid eye movement because your whole body goes into paralysis, except your eyes stay moving throughout REM sleep. That's the only thing that moves, ideally. And then, so those first 4 hours you're developing your body physically, and the latter 4 you're developing it mentally. So you're going through memories, you're going through your day, and a lot of the time you're playing it backwards. I don't know why. It's also one of the reasons we meditate, by the way, after practice, is because that increases learning outcomes. The only studies that I've seen are 20-minute meditation bouts, or non-sleep deep rest protocol is what they call them. And that's just laying down, closing your eyes, and focusing on your breathing for 20 minutes. I don't want to take you guys for 20 minutes after every practice, so we only do the 5 to 10 that we do, but those are very helpful, those are crucial. And what happens is, anytime you fail, once again, I forget what the neurochemical is called, and I apologize for that. Maybe I'll be able to tell you guys later. But what happens is, you fail, and so it's just outside of your zone of proximal development, and you get this little flag, and you get this little flag, and you get this little flag, and you get that little flag, and then you got one right over here, way far away. And what happens is you go to sleep, and those areas that are flagged end up getting targeted by your brain. And those are areas of growth. All of those mental resources go towards that and help to grow that. And those are those areas. Hi.
Do you have the key to
Yeah.
Yeah, of course we got the key.
Where is it?
Du forstyrrer altid, Søren. Smut.
Søg Lars i jakkesæt.
Okay, so
Hvor er jeg på?
Ja, han har altid jakkesæt på.
yeah. So yes, that's what happens. Is you go to sleep, and those places that you failed at before, those are going to get addressed while you're sleeping, and that will grow your zone. That's why sleep is so important to me. I don't like playing on anything less than 7 hours of sleep, mostly because of my body. Funny story. Randy and I we used to play a lot of Elden Ring, and there was one night where we were trying to beat a boss in Elden Ring. I think it was Godric the Grafted. And we probably tried to beat this boss 50 times. Try, die, try, die, try, die, try, die. Try, succeed, second level of the boss. So, we just got our asses whooped for probably 2 hours. And then, it's like 3 in the morning, I'm like, I gotta go to bed, man. Yeah, I gotta go to bed too. So, we go to bed, we come back in the morning, Randy fires up Elden Ring. First try, beats the boss with all of his pots, everything. I thought that was really funny. Because I felt like I knew that was gonna happen too. We're going to bed and I'm like, we're gonna wake up in the morning and we're gonna know exactly how to do this. Because that's what happens. It's so important to sleep if you want to learn. Also that's one of the reasons I don't like to drink, is because when you drink, you don't sleep. It's more like you pass out. You're not getting the sleep that you need to when you're drinking. And I try not to do drugs that are going to affect you. I just think of food. I think of like food as a drug. Like anything that I'm consuming, I consider to be a drug in the way that it affects my neurochemistry and the way that it affects my body. Like when if I'm eating a bunch of chocolate, if I go on a chocolate binge, like I consider that a drug because that's just putting a bunch of sugar in my body, and it's going to have a negative outcome down the road. So I try not to eat foods or take supplements that I know is going to affect my sleep or alter my neurochemistry in any way. The same reason why I don't like lots of medications, like ADHD medications, for example. Not a fan. It's because it's going to alter a bunch of this stuff. It's going to alter the way that our brain operates and works and grows. But I don't want to go on too many tangents. I think that we're about at time. Are we at time?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Do you guys have any questions about this? I know that it's difficult, and I probably explained it illy. Yes?
Don't ADHD medication typically wear off before you go to bed? Like you take it in the morning and then it's like, when you put it off throughout the day, and when you're going to sleep, it's done. Right,
At risk of being, what's the word?
Sorry
Right,
again.
that's fine, please.
Helt roligt, Britt.
Banker fandme meget på døren.
Ja, men de er også lidt vilde. Er der nogen, der ved, hvor der er nogle whiteboard tusser her? Et eller andet?
Ja, lige der.
Jeg har fået dem i hovedet over rundt på den.
Nå, men det er fordi, hvis...
Det er fordi, der er en der er lige
Det er
der.
godt, Britt. Det er godt, Britt.
Jeg tager altid
Så trender man.
Maybe that was my own fault for taking all the whiteboard. I think that people develop regularly as a rule, and the exception, I think, should be I think the idea that the exception bleeds into the rule should be taken very seriously during any medication. I think that, especially young boys, because that's the main group that's being prescribed ADHD medication, I think that young boys, as a general rule, develop normally, and I think that prescribing them what is essentially an amphetamine is probably addressing the wrong problem. I would say that school and the way that we educate children might be the wrong problem. Just let kids play until they're almost dead from being tired, and then they'll develop properly. Jack Panksepp is a neuroscientist. He wrote Affective Neuroscience, and in that he talks about experiments that he did where he took play away from rats, and their brains developed in a similar way to children that are on ADHD medication. What happens is their frontal lobe doesn't develop, and your frontal lobe is responsible for decision making, and that's not finished growing until you're about 25 for males and 23 for females. And of course it wouldn't grow, because you're taking all that pressure off of your frontal lobe. It doesn't have to make decisions, or it doesn't have to grow to make decisions, because you're taking that pressure away by giving a stimulant, which makes them focus. They're really focused on one thing. But I don't think that giving children an amphetamine is the proper solution to kids being kids, essentially. Children need to play. It's the best way that we can develop. So, and I very much doubt that it's out of the system by the time people go to sleep. But I'm not sure. The same with coffee. Any more questions? Tack.
Hej!